morning, everyone. This is Callie Fuselier. Elaine Hillgrove and I would like to welcome everyone who has joined. Thank you for making the time for today's listening session. During this crazy time in our world, it's difficult to find things for us to be grateful for. Elaine and I think that one small thing y'all should be thankful for is that you don't have to see our faces on the screen this morning. A much larger thing we are truly grateful for is to be associated with today's event. The opportunity to introduce, or for some of you, reintroduce you to Leona Tate's story is to us a privilege. But then to add the participation of former Secretary of Transportation, Rodney Slater, and hopefully the Mayor of New Orleans, who we are still waiting for, LaToya Cantrell, both admirable leaders in their own way, gives us immense pride, and we want to thank them as well as you for being here.
Just to give you some background, Callie and I met Miss Tate and her right hand, Tremaine Riley, at an Aspen Institute event sponsored by our firm 2 years ago and kept trying to think of what we could do to help Miss Tate's foundation. Miss Tate's journey is a fascinating one that she will discuss later, but we really appreciate her being here. And I think we're trying to connect Mayor Cantrell right now, but in the meantime, I'll just give you a little bit of introduction to the mayor. She is the first female mayor of New Orleans who has taken a role in public service since being a young girl. She's been an advocate for Miss Tate and her mission, and I'm not sure, we'll wait on that, but I will also introduce you to Secretary Slater and Miss Tate. I'm extremely honored to do so. Secretary Slater has been a leader and mentor throughout his illustrious career in public service. He served as the head of the Federal Highway Administration and as Secretary of Transportation under President Clinton. Secretary Slater has continued to serve as a leader at Squire Patton Boggs, and we are so thankful for him for joining us today. Ms. Tate is an American civil rights pioneer and advocate in her community. She was one of the initial implementers of school desegregation in New Orleans and has continued her work in the community. In 2009, Leona Tate established the Leona Tate Foundation for Change to help purchase McDonough 19, the school which she, along with Tessie Prevost and Gail Etienne, integrated. Again, we're so appreciative to Ms. Tate for taking the time this morning to speak with us about her journey and her foundation. I believe we have the mayor on the line now.
Good morning. I am on the line. I've been on the line since the very start. I would not show up late. On the tape. And no way, no how in this city, tell you, no way. But thank you so much, Callie, and of course, Secretary Slater and the Honorable Leona Tate, who is not only a role model for me, but definitely for her city, the city of New Orleans. When you're intentional about moving forward, and when you are rooted and grounded, not only in community, but understanding who you are and where you come from, it is so important, one, that we educate ourselves about those who walk the talk, but walk the difficult paths. And being the first woman, African-American mayor of the city of New Orleans in its 300-year history, and going through the challenges one to become, it really crystallized for me the importance of, one, again, knowing who you are and knowing where you come from. And Miss Leona Tate represents that for so many in our community, so many in our country, and quite frankly, in this world. 60 years ago, as Callie, you mentioned, Miss Leona, Miss Tessie, Miss Gail, courageously, Miss Ruby, courageously desegregated McDonough 19. And then, of course, William Frantz Elementary School. And last November, I was just honored to have the opportunity to present these women with the key to the city. But more importantly, work with Miss Leona and her foundation, the Leona Tate Foundation for Change, and Alembic, a community development, as they not only move towards purchasing it through her leadership, but also partner together to ensure that it is and will be redeveloped, not only for senior housing, but really as a cornerstone for the city. So the city's Office of Community Development put forward and awarded $2 million for this development of 25 units, because we know quality affordable housing has been a priority, not just for me and my administration, but for the residents of the city of New Orleans. And so we didn't even hesitate, one, knowing Miss Leona and what she stands for, but also I had the opportunity to work with the partners of Olympic, and they understand not only community development, but they understand grassroots organizing and what being connected to community means. So I know that this development is going to be literally second to none, in our city. And of course, what it will highlight the historical aspect of our civil rights movement that really transcend itself through these powerful women, and one who we're recognizing and working with this morning. And as I think about the redevelopment and the recovery of the city of New Orleans, not just in this post-Katrina environment, but really as we move through, hopefully soon, because the light is there, in this post-pandemic environment, moving towards recovery. The main artery of St. Claude Avenue, it is a main artery in our city, and one that will come back better than before because of this development, but because of this partnership. So I just wanted to join again to demonstrate not only my commitment to Ms. Tate and her leadership and her vision, but that of the city of New Orleans holistically. So thank you again for allowing me to just be present, and I'm not going anywhere, because I'm just as interested in Miss Leona's her story, but really what she means to our city and our country, and of course our state. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful words. And now we're going to turn the presentation over to Secretary Slater, Ms. Tate, and the mayor. She'd like to chime in as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me thank Callie and Elaine for the wonderful job they've done in helping to bring us all together. It's important, I think, to acknowledge them, because they mentioned that some time ago they were working with Ms. Tate and were so inspired by her story that they wanted to do something about it. And what they've done is to actually engage our law firm. And we're very, very pleased that Squire Patton Boggs is here to be supportive of this effort, Ms. Tate and Madam Mayor. And we look forward to our discussion. And this is, by the way, an interesting law firm with significant Louisiana ties. One of our founding partners, Tom Boggs, of the Boggs family, hailing from New Orleans, very, very important to the history of our firm, making it a global law firm with offices around the world and across the United States. Also, those of you who are familiar with Louisiana history and American history, for that matter, you know of his parents, Lindy Boggs, who was a member of Congress, following, frankly, her husband, Hale Boggs, who was a leader of Congress as well. And so there is this natural connection that we feel, and we're just honored to be a part of this discussion. Let me also mention Matt Cutts, a leader of our firm, Alethea Nanku, a member of our global board, and Mike Curto, the managing officer of our DC office. All of them very, very supportive of Elaine and Callie in this effort. And Ms. Tate, you should know that we are going to not only start the effort to be of support in your fundraising effort today, but continue that with the kind of leadership that I've mentioned here supporting Callie and Elaine in this effort. Madam Mayor, thank you for your very powerful remarks, and we congratulate you on your stewardship representing this wonderful 300-year-old historic city, a city actually older than the United States itself. And I think that's something, too, worthy of note. And a place where history is made. And we're going to talk about some of that history today. And I should say this before I forget, Mayor. I want to hear more about this St. Claude Avenue project. because, you know, a person who's been a little steeped in transportation might be able to be of a little benefit along with my colleagues at Squire Patton Boggs and assisting you in that effort. But let's, if we may, Ms. Tate, let us, and I'd like, if I may from time to time just say Leona, because while we talk about you as Mrs. Tate today, having founded this wonderful foundation with a focus on the future, purchasing this historic building, I think it's also very important for us to know that long before this moment, even as a little girl, as Leona, with your colleagues, you dared to step forward into history in a way that is still being felt. And that's what brings us together today as we remember the past while looking towards the future. And so, Leona, let's go back to that November day, I believe November 14th of 1960. Tell us what you were thinking that day, but also you may want to talk a little bit about how you came to walk into that moment, because that step didn't begin that day. You had to prepare for that day as well.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much. It was a preparation, and it was a preparation that I was confused about in the beginning. I can remember, and I must have been at like around 5 years old. Things just started to change. A lot of attention being shown my way, doing extra things with my teacher, extra assignments, which was kind of baffling when everybody else was outside playing. I was still at the table doing some work, and things happening differently with my parents. But I know that, you know, that was just preparation time. Had no idea what it was about to be about. I knew I was going to go to a different school, and I was kind of excited about that because my old school was very crowded. We were on a platoon session where some kids had to go in the morning and some children had to go in the evening. And, well, it was an all-black school. And I was very uncomfortable. I remember crying every day because I just didn't like being crowded like that, I guess. And so I was really excited knowing I was going to go to a new school. My parents didn't talk much around me because I think they didn't want me to be afraid. And I can say I never was afraid. But when I woke up that morning on November 14th, you would have thought it was a Christmas holiday. My house was filled with family and friends, you know, supporting my mother. And everybody seemed to be in a real jolly spirit. And all of a sudden, a black car pulled up in front of the door. And that was the U.S. Marshals arriving to bring us to school as they did every day. And the house got real quiet. And I can remember that silence today. And I remember my mother saying, when you get in the car, you sit to the back of the seat and do not put your face to the window. So I tell children when I talk to them today, obedience had to play a big part in what we did. We had to listen. And we got in the car, and the marshals led us to the school building, which seemed to be 2 or 3 blocks from where I was living, where I was walking over 10 or 11 blocks to my old school. And we approached the building from the rear. And by that time, all 3 cars, Tessie, Gail, and I were all in separate cars, heading back up. So they timed it perfectly. So when we turned on St. Claude Avenue, it was just mobs of people. I did not recognize that this mob of people were all white. I didn't understand that they were screaming at me. I really couldn't understand what they were saying. I saw police on horseback. Being from New Orleans, the only thing I thought was a parade was coming. Because that's what it looked like and that's what it sounded like. And I wanted to know why I had to go to school on Mardi Gras and everybody else, that's the parade. So my mother said, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. She said, you'll understand later. So we got to the building. We were very protected by the police department in New Orleans and the U.S. Marshals. And we went up the stairs to the principal's office, and we were asked to take a seat on a bench that was right outside the office in the hallway. And we sat on that bench, I think, half the day waiting to get placed in the classroom. We were so bored, Tessa Gale and I used the towels on the floor to play hopscotch. And that's what we were doing. So finally we did get placed in the classroom, and I can remember trying to speak to a little white girl, and not even making a difference in the color of our skin then, because the color really didn't make any difference to me. And it was like I was invisible. She didn't answer me. She didn't look my way or anything. But the parents started pulling the white children out of class. And by 3 o'clock that day, Tessa Gale and I were the only 3 students in that building. There were 2 brothers, I understand, that lasted the rest of the week, but we never saw them. And we were the only 3 students in that entire building for a year and a half. We weren't allowed to eat from the building. We had to bring our own food and beverages. The water fountains were turned off. The windows were papered up. No one could see out. No one could see in. And we were never allowed to go on the side of the classroom where the windows were. If you can, I don't know if everybody's as old as I am, but the pencil sharpeners used to be on the windowsill. And we used to always want to go to that windowsill to sharpen that pencil, just to be nosy, I guess. And we were never allowed to do that. We had a very, very motherly teacher in first grade. She was an excellent first grade teacher. And she didn't leave us. She didn't, I mean, every step that we could take, which wasn't far, we were so confined, but we were comfortable. We didn't realize what danger we could have been in. Our play area, never allowed to go in the yard, was under a stairwell that was right outside of the classroom. And that's where we would maybe eat our lunch or play some board games or spend the rest of our day. But we got an excellent first grade education. Excellent.
Well, thank you. And Leona, it's, I'll tell you, it's a very riveting story. And I think it was important for us to hear it from where you stood. It's interesting how you talked about the jubilation of the morning and then the quiet calm of the car pulling up and then moving on to the school. And it's also interesting how you talked about the crowdedness of one place and then trying to find a little more room in another. You know, one thing about the walk of history is that there's always a lot of space.
Right.
We don't necessarily understand that until we're in the midst of it, because a historic walk is in many instances a lonely walk. And it's important to have people around you who care for you and who love you. And you talked about that. Let me ask this. You mentioned the teacher. Tell us about this teacher, because this teacher was someone I assume you met, the 3 of you met after you got to the school. So it's not like she knew a lot about you beforehand, but tell us a little bit about how important it was for you to find her on the inside, even after some of the students on the inside left.
Her name was Miss Myers. I can remember she was a little small, frail little lady, but you know, she had some age on her at that time. I grew up thinking, well, maybe she wasn't from New Orleans because she was so kind to us. And but I found out she was. So I knew when she went home in the evening or afternoon, she caught a lot of flack from her community because she did her job and she did it very well. I mean, she just, if we were playing under the stairwell, she would sit her chair right there. She wouldn't move. Wherever we were, even to the restroom, she would be with us. We would never, but the 3 of us would always, that was pounded in our heads by our parents to stick together. So wherever one was, the other 2 were right there. So, you know, but she was a very good teacher, very good teacher.
Very good. You know, it's interesting. I know that the mayor probably heard this as well. When you said, you know, she the thought was that she might not have been from New Orleans because she was so nice. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the mayor, I'm sure, is sitting there and saying, you know, that's a reality we have to contend with. And that's not how we want our city defined. We want to see that goodness that you came to see and to embrace, and to know, yes, there is that in us as well. Lincoln called it the better angels of our nature. And so I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Now let me, I don't want to, I mean, you know, we could stay at this story, but we want to talk about the past, but while looking forward. And I think it's important for us to know that you've been looking forward ever since, and bringing the power and the passion and really the glory of that moment forward in all of your activities. So let's talk about that a little bit. And I hope everyone sees this picture over your shoulder, because that's the Leona that we've been hearing from, that we've been talking to. But she didn't stay there. So let's talk a little bit about the other places that she would go. So tell us a little bit more about, I mean, on through school and the significance of the lessons learned and how those have guided you to where you are today.
Well, we were so protected. Playing outside like we normally did couldn't happen anymore. If anybody were coming to visit us, we would know in advance that they were coming. And Mayor, I learned that from our past mayor, Dutch Morial. He told me how hard it was to come in this area once that happened. And I kind of remember that. And but Chelsea Gale and I we had a bond. We still have this bond until today. And it was just in us, just that we had to stick together. And whenever we would talk, our conversation would be about McDonough 19. And we were very sentimental about that building. And my interest came, well, after Katrina, when we were allowed back in the lower Ninth Ward to visit. It was a must that I come and see what the building looked like. And it looked fine. It looked repairable, you know. And I was striving to get it open as another school. That's what I really thought. It was never my intention to do all what I'm doing now, but it just happened. But I understood, you know, I was told it wouldn't. Well, first of all, I was told, well, what's your foundation about? It seemed like I couldn't get any answers without having a foundation. So we formed the foundation. And that schools are required to be on 3 acres of land, and it was only on 1.8, but it's 3 stories high. So, but I knew that it had to be something educational. It had to be something educational. And when I visit these schools in the city, they know nothing about us. The children know nothing about us. So, you know, that had been sticking in the back of my mind for a long time. And well, when I first found out that it couldn't be a school again, I was interested in seeing how we could get control of the building. But the school board didn't know. It was in a land bank status, and they didn't know what they wanted to do with it. So really our wait time was waiting on them to make a decision on really what they wanted to do. So, and that took over like 9-10 years, you know, so, but I was kind of off the communication to keep it in their minds that we were interested in that building, and just going and talking to everybody that I could get a chance to talk to. And I just want to go about it the right way. And it finally happened in January of 2020.
January 2020.
January 31st, 20.
Okay, let me just, if we may, Ms. Tate, put a pin in that right there, because I do want to work. I want to bring the mayor into our discussion, because I mean the city was very much involved in this effort. And let me just say, you've mentioned another historic family of New Orleans. We talked about the Boggs family, but you mentioned the Morials. And
Mhm.
Mayor Dutch Morial, I had the good fortune of meeting him as well, and his son,
Mhm.
Mark, former mayor, is now the president of the National Urban League, on whose board I sit. So I know Mark very, very well.
Very good.
And
Mhm.
and let me just ask Mayor Cantrell, the city, how does the city see, um, this this work that's being done at McDonough School and its significance, again, in helping us appreciate the past, but also uh, looking forward to the future? If you'd like to comment on that, I know that we'd like to hear from you if you're available to do that.
No, absolutely. Thank you again, for having me. And I've just been enjoying Leona Tate and just her,
Oh yes.
her story, from her mouth, and I'm tearing up even. But
Mm-hmm.
for her legacy, this is a legacy project, and one that is not only for her, but it represents, Miss Tessie, as she mentioned, it represents Miss Ruby, it represents, of course, Miss Gail, but it represents the African American community of this city. And New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans is the most Afrocentric city in the United States. And you mentioned, the birth of this city, and even New Orleans was here way before the U.S., and the purchase
Yes.
of Louisiana, doubling the size of the United States of America. And so it just solidifies what this city has meant. So when I think about where we are now and moving forward, we have a responsibility to that legacy. And even hearing Miss Leona talk about how young people today are not even connected to their history or to the story or to the struggle. So as I see it, we not only have an opportunity, but an obligation to ensure we have quality, affordable housing, repurposing our historical assets, that are not
Mm-hmm.
just buildings, but it's a reflection of our people, that we're listening to it even this morning, but also to the corridors. I mentioned St. Claude, and thank you for wanting to be more engaged in that, to see that come to fruition. And of course, with
Mm-hmm.
having a former mayor who's the Secretary of Transportation now, in the
Oh
Biden.
yes.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. But it really,
Mm-hmm.
it just speaks to, again, the investment that the city has made, being intentional about that investment. And it will not stop with the 2 million through the Office of Community Development. We see it going
Mm-hmm.
much further, because we have to connect the development to the growth and the future of the city of New Orleans.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll tell you, Ms. Tate, that must bring just smiles to your heart as well, to know about this financial commitment, because that is quite significant. And I should say, Madam Mayor, we do know Secretary Pete now quite well. And you're right. I think as a former mayor, he will bring an insight to the work of the department, and to the work of frankly, of this administration and its Build Back Better initiative, to invest in the kinds of projects and to invest in communities in the way you're describing. And that is something that our team at Squire Patton Boggs very, very sensitive to. So I know that that Callie, Elaine, and Matt Cutts, all of these individuals working on your behalf, will be there to ensure that you are able to deliver on this great vision that you have. And Madam Mayor, I'd be remiss if
So
I
much.
didn't mention this before going to Mrs. Tate. I'm coming to you just right here, but I'd be remiss, Madam Mayor, if I didn't mention that we're also very proud of not only your service today, but,
Mhm.
and I want to underscore this because it allows me to say something about Leona and her parents, because she mentioned the community surrounding her. Well, we know that that you were taken to neighborhood meetings as a little girl. You were exposed to the power of community engagement early on. you actually stepped forward in your own way early on with the local chamber. And we say that because it's important for us to know the truth of the words that fruit does not fall far from the tree. And that's why it's so important for us all as parents to be comforting to our youth, because they are our future. And we just want to acknowledge your family, Madam Mayor, your grandmother in particular, but others. And I should mention Dr. Norman Francis. We know about your Xavier experience, and he too is a historic figure there in New Orleans. We just acknowledge that, and that's the point I want to make.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And you know, my paternal grandparents were from Birmingham, Alabama, so that's where my son comes from. You know, that's where quality and the focus of being educated and historically colleges come from. But you know, and even my grandmother in California, everybody migrated from the South. Black people, even still today, the majority of African Americans in this country live in the South.
Right.
That's true.
It's a fact. And so, but we were nurtured and we were invested in internally, built up from within. And that's what we need to do with our young people. And when we build them up, they can stand amidst any adversity. And like Miss Leona said, hey, you knew that you had to be disciplined, you know, and you may not understand it all now, but in time you will. But that's what we have to get back to with our families, with our children. And I see this project and what Miss Leona is doing, again, as a legacy, moving this city and our people forward.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. And we want to go back to Ms. Tate now to talk a little bit more specifically about her vision. Thank you for your support, because the city being there with you has to be something that is inspiring and that just makes you more determined to make this dream a reality.
Oh, yes. I thank them every day. Oh, Lord. This building is in the right vicinity of the city that it'll energize this community, you know, and when I think about it, you know, I think about how I got introduced to racism, and I felt like it was at this building. So I really wanted to be somewhere for racial to heal, and end there. You know, I feel like it started there and we should end it there. I had always spoken about the building, and it was always in the back of my mind when I spoke with Tess and Gail that we're gonna get this building, and they just laughed me off, of course, and I said, when we get this building, it's gonna be named after the three of us. So that's what TEP means. It means Tate, Etienne, and Prevost, and it's gonna be an interpretive.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think they're still in a little shock. They don't believe all this is going on, but I got them kind of busy right now, so they just they're enjoying it. And we have decided to do what we're going to call something for this. I just want somewhere where somebody can come in one location to just experience the civil rights movements of New Orleans. And the experience, what we went through when we walked through those doors, experience and the timeline. And I've also partnered with People's Institute that'll come in, and they're gonna do what they've been doing over 40 years, going around the world teaching undoing racism workshops. And and they'll come in and do that. And they also wanna do what they call a communiversity, teaching undoing racism from kindergarten through high school. We're planning, working on our programming as we speak. And the second and third level will be affordable housing for 55 or older. And I'm really trying to find, I don't know how I'm gonna do this either, but I'm trying to find maybe elders that got away from Katrina and couldn't get back home.
I like that.
But
well, you know what I find very interesting is that you've got the educational component,
Mhm.
and then you've got the housing component. I mean, it seems like you're really attempting to do something here that serves the whole person and the whole community. And I
Right.
think that's fascinating. And I felt the same thing as I was listening to the mayor as he talked about the kind
Mhm.
of support that the city wants to give you. And can I add this quickly? Because I noticed that you said at the end, you know, I don't know necessarily how I'm gonna, I've never seen that stop you with anything though. That's okay, you know,
The pieces
and
that
that's the
just.
way it is sometimes when you're stepping forward, but you'll figure it
Yeah.
out. And I think you've got a
Mhm.
lot of people listening today who will help you figure it out as well.
Appreciate it. I
I
appreciate
like the
that.
way you're working with these organizations that you mentioned,
Mhm.
and the People's Institute. I've actually heard of them and their great work. And so you're going to bring a lot of other people and organizations into um, your community of supporters,
Mhm.
supporting the community with this effort. Correct?
Yes, yes. We, I don't turn down help nowhere. Anybody, anybody that come and say they want to do something, we're gonna find a place for you to do it. Okay, we and I think collaboration is important. You know, we just need
Very.
to, and I think that's what's gonna bring us together. You know, we just
Mhm.
need to get together. We need this dialogue. You know, and we just need to live, and that's
Yes,
important. Mhm.
exactly. You know, it's interesting, and I I thought about this even before our call, and I think it's worth it's worth kind of mentioning here, um, and that is, you know, I think this can have actually benefit beyond New Orleans and beyond the community that you're, you know, where the school is located. Much like your historic stand, along with Tess and Gail. I mean, it was there in New Orleans. It was dealing with one community and one school, but it attracted the attention of the federal government, the federal marshals. There's a reason they were there with you.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so I think that this could be a wonderful example that we might be able to take to the Department of Transportation, like you said, Mayor Cantrell, to Mayor Pete, and maybe, or Secretary Pete now, and maybe offering it as a model for inner city development in communities really across America. I think there is that potential. Uh, and one last thing I want to say, and then I'll just come back because we really want to hear you, but I don't want to miss saying this. You know, even years before you made your historic stand, there were there was a particular person by the name of Homer Plessy who also made a historic stand.
I did.
And just like you wanting to go to any school, just like Mrs. Parks wanting to sit on any seat on any bus,
Mhm.
he wanted to sit on any seat on any train.
Right.
And that historic case, Plessy versus Ferguson, was argued in New Orleans.
Mhm.
And there again, I think there is this sense of being that you represent, that the mayor represents, that New Orleans represents, that's so critical to our nation becoming that more perfect union, you see. So I think that there is something to be built where you are, but something that will provide a light to others in other places. And I just want to say that to you.
I hope so. I
Uh,
hope so. Mhm.
oh, it will. It will. Now,
Mhm.
what are some of the things you need? I mean, you got an audience here of a lot of people who can do a lot of things, and with Callie and Elaine taking notes, I think that we might be able to build a list of other needs that you have and things that people on the Zoom call with us might be able to offer as you go forward. So, are there other things that you're thinking about that you think you might need as you seek to realize this vision of yours?
Well, we're raising money now for the exhibits for the Interpretive Center, and that's really where our struggle is. I mean, it seems like it's always hard to start, but it's always hard to finish too. So, but we're in the process of raising monies for our exhibit. Our exhibit design is Gallagher and Associates.
Okay.
And they are awesome, and they have been working with us for the longest. So it's time that we get some fabrication done, and that's what we're working on now. The building is funded and looking pretty good. We had a little problem with the roof, but it's getting taken care of. But that's where we are.
Okay. Well, now mentioning the roof, I'm sure the mayor heard that, and others of us as well. And it's good to know that it's getting taken care of. So, well, you know, the Smithsonian actually has a very interesting program where they will work with communities and with organizations when they have the right facility in place to actually put certain artifacts on loan, because they have so many things that much of it is in storage, but they do have this sort of community-based connection kind of initiative that we might want to look into for you for the long term as you get everything in place. But I think we can be helpful there, and I know that there are people on the call who are willing to offer resources, myself included. So that's one thing. Now, I want you to. We've got a few more minutes on this call, on this this Zoom program. So give us maybe one or two other things that that you are asked to dare to envision and to believe. There are those, I think, who will respond. So tell us a little bit more.
Well, I just had to keep moving until I find the right people. That's what it was. And I was told that a few years ago, don't not talk to anybody, talk to everybody. And I finally got introduced to Alembic, and they were the first developers to tell me that your vision could be done. So when I heard that, I said, well, this is my time. This is my time. And I just went forward with that, and it just seemed like it must have been my time. They say you gotta wait, it's God's time. So, and everything just started falling into place for us. We did a presentation with the school board, and they were helpful, and we did a presentation with Housing Authority of New Orleans, and they were very helpful. But we've come a long way, really. We've come a long way. The city has been excellent. I love my mayor. Nobody gonna say nothing about my mayor. And
she's got a cheering crew all across the country as well.
I can see this. Yeah, she does. She does.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? We've got about 10 minutes, and let us maybe go back to the mayor. Madam Mayor, are you still there? And maybe we can sort of close things out with a few more remarks from maybe you, and then Ms. Tate will come back to her, and then I'll close with a thought or two as well. But I do believe that there is an opportunity with this program to engage not only the Mayor Pete, whom we talked about, but there's some other places across the department, across the Biden administration, that I think we might be able to go as well. And I know, again, Elaine and Callie, they're on to this, so they'll probably help us put together a little note. But I'm thinking about Housing and Urban Affairs, going there. I'm thinking about the Department of Energy, with Governor Granholm, who was just confirmed this week, because there's a lot of focus being placed on resilience, sustainability, and equity. And when you think about the challenges that New Orleans faced after Katrina, a lot of that deals with some of the infrastructure around New Orleans and how our water levels are rising and how we have to sort of build back better those protective barriers that hold the water at bay, those kinds of things. I think this may be a moment to explore some of those opportunities with this new administration. Again, with this project being very much at the center of it. And, you know, New Orleans, I hope that there's some place for jazz, you know, with the building as you think about it, Ms. Tate. So, but Madam Mayor, if you're there and you have a thought, you know, and we really want to hear from you, and you may also have a request to put on the table as well.
Well, no, well, thank you again. You know, I am a big believer of bottom up, and the community needs to determine what it needs to thrive, you know, and to continue to exist. But I love Miss Leona's vision about social justice and you know, it also being a pillar of building community and understanding and tolerance, you know, of one another. But also you mentioned about living with water, the infrastructure, of course, that is going to be key to ensuring that New Orleans is here for generations to come. But also what I'm very much focused on, particularly in this post-Katrina environment, we still have not regained our population that we had pre-Katrina. We lost over 92,000 of our African-American, you know, residents from our African-American community. We went from 67% African-American population to now 59%. So this city is the most Afrocentric city in the United States of America. And we have an opportunity to preserve and to protect so that we do not gentrify, you know, that we bring people along, but we cannot let the population slip, because it means so much, not only to this city or to the state, but to the United States. And where we have seen urban cores gentrified across the U.S., that can't happen to New Orleans. We cannot let that happen. The culture is rooted in its people here in a way that is unlike any other place. So I see the ties to the fabric of this community, to its culture, living through this development. I really do.
Yes.
The time is now.
Thank you.
And we don't have 15 years to wait in order to see a decline in the population. Now, we went from 67% to 59% in 15 years. That time isn't on our side any longer. So we have to preserve the culture. And so I know that this is something that residents are fearful of gentrification, but we need to create balance, and we can redevelop, but also stay close to the ties into the culture that makes this city so special and so great.
Yes. Well, Madam Mayor, I just wholeheartedly believe your words about, you know, the spirit coming from the bottom up and the importance of visionaries like Leona and all of the people she's working with. But I think they also recognize, and we also acknowledge, the importance of leadership at the top, because you and your colleagues have to balance, as you've noted here, those issues of investment, but not sort of pricing people out of communities in which they've grown up and lived and raised families and made sacrifices. And so it really takes sort of that delicate, astute leadership to ensure that we improve, but that we still make that improvement, what would you say?
That's equitable.
Affordable.
and
affordable, equitable. That's right, by everyone. And so I think, again, I think that there is this moment where a lot of this can be addressed. And I believe Secretary Fudge, again, at HUD, would find your thoughts about the development that you're talking about very exciting. Your desire to build up the city core, very exciting. Working with, again, Secretary Buttigieg. I think there are a lot of people across the administration who would be very responsive to this effort. I remember when I was secretary and Mayor Morial reached out and he was talking about the streetcars at that time and wanting to bring those back. And we actually invested significant dollars in partnership with the city to do just that.
That's right.
I also remember a time when we talked about high-speed rail in the Gulf region, and we especially talked about it from Florida across the bottom tier of the country into New Orleans, and celebrating New Orleans' role in history in the United States as a major port city and a major rail city. So I think all of those points of importance can be tapped to build around this wonderful project that Leona has envisioned, and I'm excited about it.
I agree.
And I've gotten a couple of assignments.
Well, no,
I've gotten a couple of assignments.
Yeah, well, that's definitely the obligation I believe we have, and we have to take advantage of the democratic leadership that we have in place. Time matters. So this is our time.
Right. I also think that your governor too now will be very supportive of this as well, and the partnership with federal, state, and local parties. So I think, and I know you're Secretary of Transportation as well for the state. So I think we have a real opportunity here, and so what I want to do is maybe come back to Leona and just say, I want to say thank you for affording our law firm an opportunity to be inspired by your vision, to marshal its resources, again, through Callie and Elaine and Matthew and Alethea and Mike Curto and everybody associated with this effort. And we just really, we applaud you. And we want to be here for you. And so let me just turn it back to you to close us out. The time has passed very fast, but we started where we should, and that was with you. And we want to close where we should, and that's with you also.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Elaine and Callie. When I met them at that conference, I was trying to be quiet because it seems like my story takes over everything we do. So, but they got in there some kind of ways, and I appreciate what they've been working on since that time. It's been a labor of love. I'm gonna be honest with you. We've been volunteering doing this, and people come in and just really want to help, and it's been a blessing. And I'm ordinary, I'm touchable, and and I just want people to know that, and whatever I can do to help, I just try to do it. But I want to thank everybody for this, and thank you, Senator Slater. I want you to come in and put on your hard hat and walk through the building with us. And I got to put a hard hat on the mayor first, but it's getting done. It's really getting done. Yeah.
Well, Leona, thank you for being touchable, and thank you for touching all of us.
Thank you.
And thank you so much to Secretary Slater and Mayor Cantrell for joining us. Ms. Tate, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you speak to our group today. We want to tell everyone that we have put the link in the chat to contribute to Ms. Tate Foundation, and we hope that everyone will take a little time to do that. Ms. Tate, we've also already had emails from partners at our firm saying they handle public finance, they handle infrastructure, they handle senior housing issues, and they want to help. So I'm proud right now to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help. Thank you to Squire Patton Boggs for supporting this morning's listening session. And thank you again to Secretary Slater, Mayor Cantrell, and especially Ms. Tate for being willing to share her
I'm
story
sorry.
with us.
I meant secretary. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's all right.
Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great weekend.
You too. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.